A Japanese studio which has given us Dragon Ball and Sailor Moon seems to be under scrutiny right now. And this is a scandal that was long in the making. Now, I have seen Vosh and other bread tubers report on this, and they accuse the Toei animation studio of being anti-gay, anti-LGBT. Now, I will explain to you the story, and then you can make your own mind if they are anti-LGBT or not. You see, anime is going through a very rough time in Japan. And in order to understand why this is, you need to understand the hierarchy of the people that are working at an anime studio. At the top of the food chain, you have the marketing team, as usual, and you also have the voice animators, and these people are paid quite well. But at the bottom of the ladder, you have the grunts, the people who are drawing the anime, and they are sometimes paid even below minimum wage, which is technically borderline illegal, but we're going to talk about that in a bit. And if you take into account that this usually happens in Japan, in Tokyo, which is one of the most expensive cities in the world, well, you will understand why a lot of animation schools in Japan are closing. And this is a big problem if you're an anime fan, because then you realize that this is one of the many reasons why you pick up an anime, you really enjoy it, and then season 2 never comes along, or it takes 5 or 6 years until a season 2 happens. And the reason is this crisis that is happening in the anime industry, where you have a lot of people that just don't want to work there anymore because of the horrible, horrible conditions. Now, the reason that an animator is paid so little is due to the fact that their work isn't really what sells the anime. I know this sounds ridiculous on paper, but when you think about it, you have an artist that, let's say, draws Bulma from Dragon Ball. Well, the thing is, if that artist quits, you can find another artist that can replace Bulma in drawing. He can do something that's so similar that it's very difficult for a person watching to even know who drew that version of Bulma. And this is also by design. You have to understand there's a team of animators that are drawing every one of these shows. So they should be able to reproduce each other's work to the point that the viewer doesn't really know who drew it. And because of this, they're easily replaceable. If one of them quits, well, you can find someone else that's willing to take his spot. So the animators are paid incredibly poorly. Now, the voice actors, these are the prestigious people that actually do sell the animation. So there are actual people in Japan that are more likely to watch a certain show if it has an animator that they like. This is why a couple of years ago, when the person who voiced Bulma passed away, all the internet was offering their sympathies and all the internet was coming together in order to give their condolences. Because they know the voice of Bulma. That is the person that is driving the character. You don't know if any of the animators that drew Bulma passed away since then, or how are they doing. You probably don't even know their names. So that is why the payment is the way it is. Because at a company, you get paid based on how much money you bring to the company. The voice of Bulma brought a lot more money to the company than she was getting paid. Meanwhile, an animator that just draws Bulma doesn't bring that much money because, well, he's replaceable. If he decides to quit, someone else can take the job. So when you look at the company, they want to keep the important cogs that produce the wealth so that everyone else can get paid. Right? If the voice of Bulma decides to quit, well, that's kind of a big deal. Who's going to replace her? Where are you going to find someone that has the exact same voice so that the listener to the show doesn't figure it out? It's a lot more difficult. So that's why this paying ladder exists. Now, that doesn't mean that the animator studios are excused from practicing certain unethical behaviors. Now, I don't know the exact situation at Toei Animation. I don't look at their books and manage to figure out if they're barely managing to stay afloat or if they're actually greedy and a lot of money goes to their shareholders rather than to go to their staff. But what I do know is that some of the tactics that they're using are borderline illegal. So this is a tactic that a lot of IT companies do as well in the West, and I'll talk about it in a main video on my channel because I haven't seen this problem being brought up by other people. if you look at Japan, just like European nations, there's a lot of regulations for companies. Some of these regulations include how many hours an employee is allowed to work. And if you want the employee to work overtime, then you have to pay him extra. They talk about minimum wage, and you're not allowed to pay an employee below that. But these companies manage to find a way in order to cheat the system, to bypass all these regulations. So let's say I want to be an artist at one of these companies. They're not going to hire me. Instead, what they're going to tell me is that I should start my own business. So I start my business, V Industries. And it's just me and the company. It's just a one employee company. They're still not hiring me, but what they can do is now they're going to contract V's Industries to do some projects for them. And they will make a contract, and they will have a subclause where V's Industry needs to send one guy to their office building to sit there for as long as it's necessary in order to draw whatever they require. So notice that now I'm not an employee of the company. I don't get any benefits. It's just that V's Industry has sent me there to work for them. And at any time, if I don't like it, well, I can just sue V's Industry, which just happens to be my company. So the thing is that now they don't have to pay people minimum wage. Now they don't have to make sure that people only work 8 hours a day. And if they want people to work more, they have to pay extra. And it's pretty much like slave labor if you think about it. I mean, this article does accurately call it as such. A lot of companies do this trick, this legal loophole, where they can have 1,000 employees and all of them are subcontractors. All of them have their own private company with one employee, but, they're working there. And you have to show up. You have to show up during work hours. You still have a boss that supervises you. It's literally the same as if you were employed, except you're not really part of the company. You're just a subcontractor. Now, people in Japan are being fed up with this, so they want to unionize. And obviously, the companies don't want unions. The way I view it, and this is my personal opinion from a lot of real-life experiences, I'm not saying there might not be some good unions out there. I'm pretty sure the myth might be real. But from my personal experience, most unions only benefit the union boss and his small circle of friends. The union boss usually goes like, all right, we're going to do a strike or we're going to do something. And then the company just bribes the union boss and, gives a couple of breadcrumbs to the employees, and then all of that goes away. But at the end of the day, the union boss managed to make some extra money. So the companies don't like unions because they have to bribe the union boss. And it's just another level of hassle they would rather not deal with. And because of this, Toei Animation is trying to do anything possible in order to avoid a union forming. Now, a union did form, and they sent a person to negotiate on behalf of the union. Now, as a stalling tactic, Toei Animation refused to show up to the meeting because they said that the name the union has given to them is not the same as the name of the negotiator. And the reason for this being is that the negotiator was non-binary and they changed their name. So in the paper, it was one name, I understand, but the name that they were using was different in order to fit their non-binary identity. Now, I am pretty much convinced that Toei Animation did this not because they want to discriminate against non-binary people, but just because they want to stall, and they try to find any reason possible in order to avoid the meeting. But the optics of it, as the press is putting it out, is that they are now against LGBT people. This would be easy to prove just by seeing if they hire LGBT people in their companies, which I'm pretty sure they might. I don't know for sure, so it's up to you to make this decision. But it does look bad, right? And the person that's a non-binary said that there's a lot of people who change their names after marriage, and he doesn't think that this justifies the company not wanting to speak with him. So now he's playing the homophobia, or whatever do you call it when you discriminate towards the non-binary, transphobia card or whatever, in order to gain publicity and put pressure on Toei, which is what a negotiator on behalf of a union should do. You should use any trick available in order to raise public support and put pressure on the corporation. So I do think that Toei Animation in the future is going to make an apology, and they're going to have to meet with the union. But the problem is much bigger than that. Like the idea that a company can just subcontract thousands of people or hundreds of people and pay them below minimum wage and make them work like slaves, then the main issue should be tackled, okay? Either you find a way to forbid companies from doing this practice, or you remove minimum wage. Like one of the two. Because here's the thing, if I'm a small company and I want to open a small business like a cafe or something, I have to pay the guy minimum wage, okay? I'm not going to make all these loopholes. So it hurts the little company that has to follow the rules, but then you have the big corporation that can just bypass the rules and don't have to follow them. So it creates this unequal field in the market. And it's not just, because a big corporation, they have a team of lawyers that are very well paid, and they usually handle these legal disputes to the point that most people don't even bother suing these big corporations because they know they might lose from the beginning. Meanwhile, the little guy doesn't have these advantages. So, personally, I would like if they would have a law that would close the loophole to allow corporations to do these types of behaviors. And the issue with animators needs to be addressed because, as I mentioned before, a lot of anime schools are closing. And it seems that Japan is losing this battle, which is one of their best ways to export culture to other nations and make money for their country. And in exchange, it seems that South Korea and China are picking up where Japan is leaving off because they do treat their animators a little bit better. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys in the comment section. Take care.